So just waiting for a few more people to get on.
And it's 5 minutes after, so we're going to go ahead and rock and roll. If you do have questions throughout the course of what we're doing here, I do encourage you to use that Q&A bar. And if I don't answer the question immediately, it's just because I've got some things that I'm covering, and I've got a format, but I'll do my best to get back to the questions. And if you're on as one of our regular members of our full coaching program, then you'll be able to have some Q&A calls as part of your coaching program as well. So now I just attempted to do screen sharing at the same time. Let me know. I'm just curious if you are able to both see. You can see the screen. Can you see me? Can't see me. So you get a choice of me or the screen. That's unfortunately the way it goes. And apparently the screen won out over me. So I thought the screen and the screen won. But in any case, here we go. Legendary Life Coaching. Thank you for joining us today for the very first session of the life coaching. And if you're doing this, you may be on for the full year with the coaching. Also, this one is also a test drive, this singular coaching session. So you could be on for that purpose as well. But I wanted to begin by framing out what this program is all about and what it means for you in your life and what it can mean for you in your life. So if you're not familiar with me, I've been in the coaching industry for eons, it seems like, although an eon, what's that, 100 years? I don't know. Decades? That's an eon. Anybody who knows what an eon is, please put it in the Q&A bar so I can be simultaneously educated, enlightened, and entertained. So the eon should be 100 years, shouldn't it? Decade, 10 years? But in any case, if you're not familiar with me, just a quick introduction. I really lived a blessed life, as I think all of us have at some level, if we look at our lives in the right way. But I came from the background of, I've been always involved in personal development. I started transcendental meditation when I was 9, first hypnosis class when I was 12. Been a martial artist all my life. I've got a couple of black belts and a brown belt in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. So very much a fan of training and development and developing myself. And, I brought this into my adult life because of crisis points. And maybe you can relate in some way, shape, or form. Maybe you've had some crisis points of your own. And I think we all come to those crises of consciousness. In fact, I know we do, because it's part of the human condition. Einstein said that we cannot solve the significant problems we face at the same level of thinking we were at that created them. And so what happens is the evolutionary process of our consciousness is continually running up against a brick wall, or where we feel like we're beating our head up against the brick wall until there's a greater level of clarity that emerges, which is oftentimes indicative of a value shift that's occurred. So some sort of shift in our values and what's important to us and what drives us. And values are the source of all of our upfront motivation. They determine everything that we do in our lives. But those value shifts will be the result of conditions, living conditions. Things happen in the world. And we one of the things we say from a sociological standpoint is that behaviors are geared for adaptation, which means that every behavior, there's a place where it may be very appropriate. And I say this when I'm training coaches, because we also train coaches as well. But if you took a kid from the inner city streets where they have to fight and resort to violence to survive, and if you took that capability or that behavior away from them, they might not survive very long if you threw them back inside that same environment. So values and behaviors are all relative. And we're going to be taking a look at why we may behave in certain ways. And I'm certain. You should take my speaking course too. I'm certain that that you have behaviors that don't serve you. I'm certain that you have behaviors that you're not happy with. I'm certain that you have patterns in your life that you're not proud of, or that take you in the wrong direction, that rob you of your wealth and your richness in life, or rob you of your quality of life. Why am I certain? Because we all do. Every one of us, myself included. So I'm not preaching from a platform here. I'm speaking with you as a friend. And, you know, I've been in this field for 20 years now. I got into, wrap up my biography here a little bit and then jump into the goods. But I went and I ended up working for a couple of personal development companies, and it was out of desperation. So things weren't working in my life, and that's typically what drives us to make a change. And so I went and I worked for Dale Carnegie Training. I taught for the largest schools of hypnosis in the country. Then I taught for the largest schools of neurolinguistic programming or accelerated human transformation in the country. And then I grew the largest school. We had built the largest school of NLP in the world. And we had the largest personal development presence in Australia for almost a decade, the second largest in the UK. In fact, we've still got people calling us to this day. You can hear the ringing. They're still calling us to this day from those marketplaces because the presence was so big. But in any case, that was all good and well. But you could grow your dreams, and those were big dreams for me at one time. It was a big dream for me at one time to do $1 million in a year. And then when I did $1 million in a day, I had, totally eclipsed it. And then it was $3 million in a day in sales, which was my record. We built a company that did $100 million in sales globally. I think more important than the numbers is what the numbers represent. And what the numbers represent is that we've had the good fortune, and I've had the good fortune to help people transform their lives all over the planet. And during that period of time, we also helped to build more $1 million plus speakers, trainers, coaches, consultants than anybody else in the industry in at least 3 different countries around the world, maybe more over that decade. So that's who I am, where I come from. I don't say anything like that to brag about who I am in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I haven't even started yet. The best is yet to come. I don't think you have even started yet. The best is yet to come. This is just to give you a little insight into where I'm coming from. I also, had the good fortune to lose all that. So I lost all that in a hostile takeover back in 2010 of those companies, and I had to start from scratch in a basement with a telephone in my parents' basement. And then I moved to Bali, and I grew my hair long and wore my Birkenstocks, and found out what life was really about, and discovered who I was in relationship to other people. And then I realized along the way that I could contribute in even larger ways than I had ever contributed before, by simply keeping it real and being able to connect with people from all of my life experience, and being able to share things that we can do. And I'll tell you what, and if you're anything like me, you know as well as I know that the best lessons and the most important lessons oftentimes come in our places of desperation. They oftentimes come in those places where things just aren't working for us in our life. Because if you're winning, there's, what is there to learn, right? For any of you that are fight fans at all, and even if you're not a fight fan, perhaps you could appreciate this. And you had Ronda Rousey, who was cleaning up in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, and then all of a sudden, Holly Holmes comes in and she takes a loss. Ronda takes her first loss, and shocked the heck out of the world. And you had the haters that came out that were hating on her, and you had the people that were defending her, and this whole uprisal and upheaval that occurred. But there's no champion that's beyond defeat. But it's only in defeat where we learn our greatest lessons. Even Achilles had his heel, right? And it's only in defeat that we can learn to overcome and be greater than we ever were before. Achilles didn't get that chance. I think it took him down at the time. But so there's nothing wrong with defeat. And so this life coaching program is going to be handling things from multiple perspectives. And I'm blessed to be able to share with you and contribute to your journey from multiple perspectives, not just from the victories, but also the defeats, and also those places where I had to learn, where I had to overcome, where I had to become more than what I was. And I oftentimes will share with people that I believe that your challenges are the things that are there in your way to turn you into the person who can ultimately make every dream come true, or at least help you to create your design destiny, or your design destiny, your divine. I meant to say divine. I don't have a funny joke. Sorry, I followed up with something good, but it was escaping me. In any case, the grandest thing that you're meant to create in your life, and your challenges are there to turn you into that person, which comes down to choice or free will. Are we going to allow our challenges to spiral us downward to greater depths of despair, or are we going to allow the learnings from the challenges to sculpt us into the person who is bigger than all those challenges and can rise above them to create more than we ever dreamed of, perhaps, and even to be more fulfilled than we ever imagined as well. So just to let you see, there will be some slide changes in this program. Here you can see, this is kind of a big picture for our coaching program. And I apologize, I'm not able to show you myself and show you the slides at the same time. But the slides, I think, are more critical for us at this stage in the game, because they're going to bullet point a lot of the points that I want to make here. And here's throughout this program, and what I'm talking about is the full year coaching program. If you have yet to sign up for that, you certainly can. It's you can email us, and we'll give you the email information to do that. You can just send an email at contact@legendarylivingacademy.com. Contact@legendarylivingacademy.com. If you're yet to sign up for the full program, do that right away, because the prices jump up. We just had a price increase, and we're going to have another one in a few months. So if you're interested in doing it, please do. We'd love to have you. Otherwise, let's stay focused on this program here. But the yearly program is really about how to get the absolute most out of life. And once again, as I'm interacting with you, I'm not coming from a place of perfection. I'm not coming from a place of, boy, everything in my life is working perfectly. I can tell you right now it's not. I can tell you right now that it never has. And I think that, that's important to know. As I was coming through the ranks in personal development, I guess you'd say, I wrote a couple of best-selling books, did a bunch of stuff. But as I was coming up through those ranks, I used to project perfection on the person teaching. I used to see them as being this perfect being. And from a spiritual perspective, if you're spiritually inclined at all, of course that's so. From a worldly perspective, if we were spiritual beings having a human experience, then no one is perfect. And so it's that paradox that Scott Fitzgerald talked about. He said that the true mark of intelligence is the ability to hold two seemingly opposing ideas in consciousness simultaneously. That's paradox. And so the paradox is that at some level, everyone and everything is perfect if you want to look at it from a spiritual perspective. From a worldly perspective, everything could be looked at as being imperfect as well, imperfect even. But I used to project perfection on the teacher. And I think times are changing, which is good. More people are wanting to keep it real. More people are wanting to authenticity and what they're learning and the teachers they're learning from, which is a godsend for us, right? Because not only is it BS for somebody to preach perfection, unless we're talking and chunking up to a spiritual level, it also disempowers the student. Maybe at some level, maybe it makes you stretch more because you think that the teacher's so perfect. And so you use this example of perfection. But one of the things that I found out was the deeper I got into personal development, and I went and I worked for some companies and I saw behind the scenes, examples of imperfection were everywhere. And while it's all what we sort for, some people look for the perfection in the world, some people look for the imperfection in the world, some people look for the money in life, some people look for the poverty that exists around them. and we do get what we look for. That's without a doubt. However, everything has its shadow. You have your shadow. Those are the aspects of yourself that you repress, that you don't accept. You may see them reflected in the world around you and see them as character traits that are displayed in others, but it's really at some level a reflection of your own unconscious mind. And we can't see our own shadow, right? Because the shadow is behind us, but oftentimes other people can see our shadows, right? So when you hear people, or when you know somebody that has problems but doesn't know it, and I know we all know people like that, right? That's an example of shadow. Everything has shadow. The business world, capitalism has its shadow. Communism had its shadow. The United States of America has its shadow that other people see, but we don't. So we all have shadows. They say that the brighter the light, the bigger the shadow. When you think back to Bill Clinton and the Monica Lewinsky scandal, that's the shadow. It could even be the shadow nature of politics and power, if you want. But those are the aspects of ourselves that we don't like to admit to, or we repress, and therefore have to be projected out onto the external world, so that we can see them reflected back to the mirror the mirror that our unconscious mind and conscious mind are looking into. That's the mirror of the world around us. So what I would do, and I don't know if you can relate to this, but I would project perfection onto the teacher. It's like Bruce Lee said. He said, if you're looking at the teacher pointing to the moon, you're missing all the beautiful glory where the finger's pointing to. The point is not the teacher. The point is seeing what's being indicated. It's the teachings. And the teachings are always infinitely more important than the teacher. Although, if you're a parent at all, we know that our children listen to what we say, but they watch what we do. And so how we show up as leaders is very important throughout our lives. And our teachers aren't perfect. Martin Luther King Jr., one of the most inspired people to walk the face of the planet, was not a perfect being. He was amazing. He's my favorite, the epitome of a leader to me. But, one of his downfalls was his shadow that came out when J. Edgar Hoover used what's called black propaganda, which makes it appear, it's propaganda, the spreading of beliefs that appears to come from within. And he had a letter written to Martin Luther King Jr. that said that if he didn't commit suicide, they were going to reveal to the world that he had been a philanderer and he'd been out sleeping around. And so you look at even somebody who's an inspired being who can champion a cause that's a right and just cause. There's always those shadow aspects. So the reason why I share this with you right now is because wherever you are is right where you're supposed to be. The reason why I share this with you right now is so that you can be forgiving of yourself. I mean, when you think about it, you're for joy, you're for happiness. So why not be forgiving, right? You can be forgiving of both yourself, but also you can hold people in the right light and you can see them and you can see the beauty of the perfection as well as the imperfection of even the teachers that we might have once put up on a pedestal. So once again, we're living in this new day and age where everybody's talking about authenticity. Everybody's talking about being your authentic self, and then they're jumping on Facebook, taking selfies and taking pictures, saying, "Hey, here's me being authentic," right? So it's this big. It's kind of ironic once again. But having said that, there's magic and beauty to the authenticity of both the teacher as well as the student. And, at some level, we are one and the same. So my job here for this coaching program is to be real with you, to be authentic, to call things as I see them, realize that my truth is not necessarily your truth. When you love things, take them on. However, what we do also want to do is we want to avoid getting into, we want to avoid avoiding evolution, right? So when you hear things, take them on that you like. When you hear things you don't like, by all means, don't, this is your life. Ultimately, you're the only one responsible for the result. So don't take those things on that you don't choose to. However, I do ask that you be willing to suspend disbelief long enough to fully consider something. One of the things that I noticed over the years in teaching was that we had there were people that would come in. Let's say somebody's very spiritually tuned in. They're living in Bali. They're eating brown rice. They're wearing Birkenstocks. They're looking in people's eyes, and they see they see God looking back at them. But they're living hand to mouth, and they're not making any money, and they're feeling pain in their life because they're not making the kind of money that they want to be making. And they say, well, money's not important. I just want enough to get by. But I can tell you this, just getting by sucks. It's not comfortable at all. There are people that can learn how to feel amazingly fulfilled with just getting by. And why not have it all? You can have it all. It's not one way or the other. It's our thinking. Things are not good or bad. It's our thinking that makes it so. So if we can bring whatever quality of life into our life that we want, why not fire on all cylinders? And so as we go through this, my goal is to help to stretch your thinking. So I will hopefully be presenting you, and I would hope that if I were in your position, you should be hoping that I ask you to consider things in ways that stretch your consciousness, in ways that conflict with your own current belief systems, and have an open mind enough to be willing to stretch and expand your own beliefs about life. Be willing to step outside of what you consider to be you, because who you are is nothing but the sum total of the programming and conditioning of your past. It's not even who you really are. It's not your soul. It's not your spirit. It's not the light of you. Who you are is simply the basis of your personality and a bunch of conditioned reflexes. So to change who you are, as the world would see it, is not a bad thing. That's evolution. To shine, what that evolution does is it allows you to shine the light of who you really are in infinitely more powerful ways. And they say that the strongest force in the human psyche is the necessity to preserve our sense of identity. It's kind of like what Arnold Schwarzenegger said in the original Total Recall, when he said, "If I'm not me, who the hell am I?" Right? So if you're not you, who are you? Right? But who you are evolves every single day. And my goal is to kick your evolution into high gear. But I need to do that with your help, and you keeping that open mind about concepts that sit outside your current realm of thinking about who you are, what you're capable of what you can do. So having that openness and that willingness, but then also ultimately making your own choices after bravely accepting things. If you're willing to do that, you're going to get a ton out of this program. If you're willing to do that, could you right now in the Q&A bar just write yes? Just write yes. Everybody write yes in the Q&A bar. If you're willing to do that, write the word yes. So wherever it says Q&A there, unless you're calling in, then you're not able to do that. But if you're on the webinar itself, just write the word yes. Michael Nakamura says yes. Is Michael the only one who's going to write yes? Come on. If you're willing to do that, please write yes. By the way, Michael, I just looked at, I think we just accepted each other as friends on Facebook. How quaint. That's nice. And I saw that you know Marky Costello, if I'm not mistaken. Write yes in there. Come on. Everybody else must be on the phone line or something. If you're on the thing, write yes in that Q&A bar. I want to see you engaged. All right. So you can you can get into these calls either on the phone line, or alternatively, you can plug live into the website as well and listen live from the website. It's fun when you're on the website because I can interact with you. But in any case, let's keep rocking and rolling. So here's this program is about how to get the absolute most out of life, how to set yourself up for the most extraordinary quality of life. And along those lines, I'm going to ask you if you really want to get the most out of this, put yourself someplace where you have no distractions right now. Close all of the windows on your computer right now. Sit down. We have a half an hour left, but we're going to rock this half hour. I've got a lot of stuff that I want to cover. So, make sure that you're in a place where you can listen and you've got no distractions. That's the best way to get the most out of this program. And so we're going to be looking at how do you get the most out of your quality of life? how do you manage your states of mind and emotion? And this is one of those things that, once again, I'll say, we've got tools that can make you infinitely more powerful at this. That's not to say that, that I do it all the time. And it's kind of like you go to a Buddhist monk who's been meditating for 30 years and you say, have you always been able to calm your thoughts and meditate to silence? And even if they've been doing it for 30 years, they're going to tell you no if they're honest, and they're going to say it's a practice. All of these things are a practice. So there's not the point where we hit perfection, but we can perfect our practice to the greatest degrees and allow our practice to evolve so that we're doing more and more good things for ourselves and putting out greater and greater output. You've heard before, it's about progress rather than perfection, right? So we're going to be looking at how to manage our states of mind and emotion, because all of our behaviors and results flow from our states of mind and emotion. If somebody's in a state of wanton abandon or ferocious desire or fierce determination, there's certain actions that will get taken from those states. If somebody's in a state of procrastination, there's no action that gets taken. So if we want to learn how to take charge of our behaviors, so this goes back to behaviors, we have to learn how to take charge of our emotional states. Emotion is energy in motion. So all of our actions flow from our emotional states. That's the root cause of the actions, and the actions are the root cause, as well as the states that package together, are the root cause of the results that we produce in our life. So believe it or not, your ability to manage your states of mind and emotion are directly linked. They're the cause set in motion that determines whether you got the $1 million in your bank account or the $1 million in debt. It goes both ways, or if you live it hand to mouth or paycheck to paycheck. Right? It all starts within. We've got emotion, energy in motion. We've got our thoughts, which are the precursors to actions as well, because anything that exists, I'm looking at my wallet right now. Well, it began as a thought in somebody's mind, and it was emotion, energy in motion that caused the actions that produced this wallet. Now, we could say there might have been a team that produced that wallet and created the leather and created the leather. Yeah, God was on our side, right? He gave us cows. And that did the stitching on the wallet. And that there were a group of people. And what if one of them was in a crappy state one day? Does that mean the wallet doesn't appear? Well, it could. If that one was the CEO that put the business out of business by exploding in unexpected places and the business fell apart, then this wallet might not have ever existed, right? Same thing with our relationships and other things. We're going to be looking at concepts from ancient wisdom to modern day principles for extraordinary living. And, I come from a lot of different schools of thoughts. I think I come from good schools. I come from a lot of different schools of thought. I've taught everything from esoteric sciences, which simply means secret or hidden systems, wisdom, and shamanism over the years, to modern day principles for extraordinary living. I see it as all as blending beautifully together. You've heard that there's nothing new under the sun. There's new expressions of things. When the movement came out, that was a new way of expressing things with modern technology, but the concept of the law of attraction had been around since the dawn of time, focusing on what you want, which is critical. But we were able to get it out there in brand new ways and package it in a new way where the masses could hear about it. Think about it. Jesus had his 12 disciples. Buddha had whoever was around at the time. So in ancient times, it wasn't as easy to teach as it is in today's day and age with today's methodologies. So we're going to be taking a look at a lot of different things. And what I was going to say kind of neat, which is amazing, I'm going to go from kind of neat to amazing, is that in today's day and age, we can find the answers to any question that we've ever had. It's at our fingertips. We can go online to YouTube and watch videos on any concept ever. If you were in a system of secret teachings in the past, let's say if you were studying the Kabbalah and Judaism, or you were studying alchemy or hermetics, or Gnosticism or any of the ancient systems, you had to come up through the system, and it took you years before you really started learning the secrets. Today, we can get out there and find any secret that we've ever wanted, which is really, really brilliant. The challenge becomes in categorizing that material, in utilizing it for best use to make our life everything that we want it to be, because we're in information overload now. So part of my goal throughout this life coaching program is to help you to bring everything into practice, to bring everything into implementation, not everything, but enough principles and concepts and ideas so that we begin to run our lives in far more effective ways. And I'm here for the journey with you. This is your accountability. This is my accountability. Oh, no, I said it. Yes, I will be holding myself accountable for things as we go through this, because I think that's the best way to teach. It's also the best way to learn. So we're beginning looking at harmonic living, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. Also know that we do have a business coaching program that we're launching as well. And so we'll have a first test drive of that program as well. And that one's specifically focused just on explosive growth within your business. So we've got both. If you have more questions about either, you can email us at contact@legendarylivingacademy.com. In the meantime, oh no, it's asking for my password. So my screen went blank. That's all right. We're all good. Life goes on. All right. So the structure, today's session is about the structure for successful living. So we kind of outlined where we're headed, right? But today's session is specifically about the structure for successful living. And one of the things that I've noticed, and this is one of the lessons that I got in my hard times, not in my great times. Because in our great times, you know, if you're an entrepreneur already, or if you're building a dream, and if you wanted to look at, you know, who are the people that have the most challenges in life, or the people that we might consider to be the most screwed up in life, you know, I wonder whose name pops to mind when you think about this. And we're probably going to settle on a few celebrities that we all know about, or something like that. And you see that when we get too much too soon, and we don't have the capacity to own it and to really deal with it, that can oftentimes lead to destructive habits or behaviors. Well, look at Elvis Presley. Look at Michael Jackson. Look at the Jim Belushi. Look at the people around us. Look at Amy Winehouse. So we look at movie stars, rock stars. Look at what's the guy's name? Will Smith, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He gained it all too fast, lost it until he learned how to gain it again. And there's a notion that some disciplines will talk about. I actually got this from the Kabbalah Center in Los Angeles. They talk about the notion of earnership. And that is that if you just stop for a moment and think of anything that you're proud of in your life, just stop for a moment and think of something that you're most proud of. Or just one thing that you're most proud of in your life. Like when I stop and think about that, my little girl, my daughter, pops into my mind. Even though she's been adopted by her stepfather, I'm proud of her. She's just a beautiful little girl. I'm very proud of her. But when I think of, then I want to go to something that I've done, not just created. That's the act of creation, but something that I've earned. You know, like for me, my black belts in karate and my brown belt in jiu-jitsu, I'm proud of those, right? So when you think of something that you're really proud of, my bet is that those were the things that you had to work harder for. Those were the things that you really had to pour a consistent amount of energy into. Those were the things where you didn't stay within your comfort zones, right? You had to work for it. So that's the whole idea of earnership in terms of what we're really most proud about in our lives. And so, you know, all great things can come with work, can come with difficulty, can come with challenge. And our lives come with challenge. There's inherent challenges in our lives. But it's those challenge points, once again, where we have the grand opportunity to get the learnings we need to become more than what we were before. My goal is to continually help you to become more than what you were before over the course of this next year together. Month by month, every week we have one of these calls. My goal is to help you to become more than you've ever been before, so that when you look back on the year, you're proud. Is it going to be easy? It may not be easy. There's tasks and stuff we're going to do, and there's accountability that we're going to have, but it's not meant to be easy. I just did yoga this morning, and I got my butt kicked by a little 110-pound girl, right? And but it was fabulous, from the perspective of I had to stretch, I had to grow, I had to work muscles that I wasn't working before. And then when I look at my side, at my, not direct down on the abs, but I'm looking at where one's love handle should be. And I see these little muscles popping out all of a sudden that I've never seen before. I'm like, oh my God, something great is happening. But there's work that goes into it, so we're pushing beyond those challenges. And so one of the greatest challenges that I had was when I had lost my last business. And all of a sudden I was in a place where, I was doing $1 million a weekend in sales. And then all of a sudden I had nothing. I had zero. Everything disappeared overnight. And it was a hard pill to swallow. So it was like, wow, what the hell is going on here? And what I didn't realize at the time was that the old lifestyle was driving me into the ground. And, on hyperspeed, on light speed, I was being driven into the ground. Actually, I did realize it. And I got to the point where I was crying out for help because it was just, I was in 3 different time zones in a week. I was teaching 15-hour days on a stage. My entire calendar was filled for the year. I was only back in the United States 4 weeks out of the year. I was on a platform where I had thousands of people in the room every single weekend from country to country. And I was living in the spotlight, not even to the same extent that you'd look at Britney Spears or somebody like that, where you've got global recognition, but certainly within my field, I had global recognition. And so every move that I was doing and every move that I did was scrutinized, and it was very painful. And sometimes we're just kind of going with emotions. I thought I was getting what I wanted. I was making lots of money. But at the same time, my internal world was a shambles. It was falling apart. I joke sometimes. I felt like I was in that movie Weekend at Bernie's, where they're reeling the guy out on stage. That was me, right? So I needed something to happen in my life to shift things for me, to lead me to a greater level of clarity, a new level of clarity. One of the laws of thermodynamics is that whenever entropy, this is Prigoghine's postulation. Prigoghine's postulation is that whenever entropy increases, think of entropy as being chaos, that there's either more entropy or more chaos or a greater level of order. The chaos doesn't go down. It goes up until there's what we call a bifurcation point or a pop to a greater level of clarity. So if you're feeling chaos or confusion or frustration or anger in your life, get excited, because it means that if you're willing to ask the right questions and you're willing to apply your imagination the right way, you're going to have a new order that will emerge. You're going to have a greater level of clarity than you've ever had before in your life. And I hope to be a part of that journey, right? So one of these learnings that I got, and we're going to spend the rest of our time on this, is how to structure our day in a way for successful living. And so what we're really talking about is emotional state management here. I've got, and I teach techniques. I teach trainers, coaches, consultants, educators. I still do that. Cutting edge tools for accelerating human transformation, for making your life everything you want it to be. I got the reputation for being the trainer of trainers in our industry. I had the biggest names in the industry. Their trainers were coming through our trainings. They're the biggest personal development company in the world today. I got a message from somebody who said, Chris, the people you train are running the coaching. They're the coaches inside this organization, and also they're the trainers. They're also the guy up there teaching the program. And I'm blessed to have been able to make a contribution in people's lives, but there's more of a contribution, because this is the stuff that I never taught before that we're going over right now. We teach techniques for getting rid of anger in your life, or all the sadness, or all the fear, or all the guilt. Well, you can get rid of that from the past, because the only reason why you'd hold on to anger or sadness or fear or guilt is because of some interpretation of an event that you had and that you've held on to, and something that you haven't learned, which when you learn it will allow you to release that emotion or transform that emotion, right? Because all emotions are dependent upon their meaning by the context in which the emotion appears. And we can talk about that deeper in other places. But for right now, I want you to know we can go back and get rid of anger or sadness or fear. But if you're living your life without structure, such as we go back to the Elvis Presleys of the world, or the Jim Belushis of the world, or the Michael Jacksons of the world, they had structure. But the structure, they were pushing their own limits. And a lot of entrepreneurs will get into the business of being an entrepreneur, or a lot of rock stars. That's why I used that example before, because they're running away from structure. It's like the last thing I want to do is work a 9-to-5 day and sit behind a desk. I want to have nothing to do with it. The structure, they're running away from that. And more people are becoming entrepreneurs every day. There's 543,000, according to, I believe it was Entrepreneur Magazine that said this, 543,000 new small businesses being launched every single month. And I think that number's in the U.S. alone, if I'm not mistaken. And it's insane. And it's because, it's easier than ever before to launch your own business, and people are going, hey, I want to go out, why not me? If everybody's out there doing this, and we see something like Instagram that's built up with 12 employees and then sold for $1 billion to Facebook, people are going, with today's technology, why not me? And my question also is, why not you? But the issue that people have is that they're oftentimes running away from structure, and structure is what keeps us together. I've got a cup of bulletproof coffee in my hand right now. I'm going to admit it. That was made by Yvette. Thank you, Yvette. With love, yes. And I'm drinking this bulletproof coffee. But the coffee cup is the container. If there was no cup, we'd have a mess. And entrepreneurs oftentimes have no cup, or artists have no cup. They've got a mess. Elvis Presley had no cup. Michael Jackson had no cup. He had no container to contain the liquid of if you consider that to be the content of their life. And I learned this the hard way because I had no structure. Right. So with structure, we can have successful living. And for me, I think of it as creating the context for the narrative of your everyday. Right. The meaning of your life, ultimately, when you look back on it, when you're out at the end of your life, you look back and you go, well, did I live a life that I'm proud of? Will depend upon the context in which it appears. It depends, the ultimate context is the context of time. If you were living a life in 1848, you might have lived an entirely different life in that context, or you could change the geography. If you were living in Tibet and you were chased out by China and you were living amongst the monks and the Dalai Lama, when you change the context, you take them out of Tibet, the whole meaning of their life is going to change. So all meaning is context dependent. Even if you took something that appears to have a solid meaning, like I'm sitting on a chair right now, the chair has, we think, boy, that meaning's pretty solid. But if you change the context of time and you ask yourself, what was this chair 1,000 years ago? And what will this chair be 1,000 years from now? Even the meaning of the chair changes. You change the context, maybe the chair could become a ladder. So in the context of somebody breaking into your house, maybe it becomes a weapon, right? So all meaning is context dependent. It's dependent upon the context here. If you have, and what we're talking about is emotional, a structure to set around your life that gives you greater levels of emotional mastery. What the task that I'm going to give you today, I'm going to give you a task and that you can bring back with you next week. But the task is to set a contextual framework around your day, every day, that puts a structure around your emotional management. And, anger can become all-consuming. Fear can become all-consuming. Guilt can become all-consuming. And what do people do? They go and they turn it into depression and they depress themselves. Or they go and they take those emotions that they lash out. They express it outwardly on other people and they destroy relationships. Or they lash outward at their children for things that they're feeling emotionally, an inability to handle something someplace else or out on their loved ones. And I know we can all relate to this. I've done it. Or you go into the workplace and you let your fears pour into the workplace, destroying your ability to be a good leader for your team, or to rise up the ranks, or to launch your entrepreneurial dream. Right. So what I want to do is help you to put your emotions in context so that you have greater levels of emotional fortitude, and you can be far more powerful, infinitely more powerful as a leader. And the way that you do that is by creating a context for the narrative of every single day. We'll do it for your life as well on our path, but the narrative of every single day. Most people think of structure as being they look at, boy, I don't want to have structure in my life. That's the last thing I want. I want to move away from that structure, especially if I'm going on that entrepreneurial path. Look at the rock stars. Structure's a lot. They want to do what they want, when they want, where they want, with who they want. You know, you think of Elvis Presley shooting the television sets. He had the guns in his house, and he'd shoot the television set if he was pissed off. That's a total lack of structure, right? You hear stories about other people doing the same thing. There's no structure to the behavior. Structure is not the enemy. Structure is the key to freedom. Structure and discipline, most people avoid like the plague, but those are the keys to freedom. Because, if you were to just stop and think of how much of your daily time becomes engulfed in obsessing around negative emotions, or obsessing around the things that you're worried about in life or anxious about and feeling anxiety and all of those types of things, those rob you of your ability to fully appreciate the present, which is the gift, right? It's like Ram Dass says, be here now. But how? How can we be here now if we're filled with anxiety, worry, fear, anger, resentment from the past, all these things, sadness, guilt? How can we possibly be here now? Because these are anchoring us either to the past or the future. And in the power of now, Eckhart Tolle talks about being here, fully here. Well, let's take a look at some ways and some practices that we can allow emotions to be transient like they're meant to be. And my assignment for you today, at the end of this session, we've got 8 minutes, so I'm going to rock and roll. I may go to 5 minutes after if we're good, because I started at 5 minutes after. So our practices and our assignment that I'm going to give you, and do this. This is the key. So this is not just about coming on and listening to this presentation. This is about implementation of what's happening here. And my promise to you is, if you play it 100% and you implement, what do you think we're going to accomplish in a year's time? What do you think? I mean, every week we're meeting. You're going to get some massive propulsion forward, right? Practices. Let's talk about daily questions. I first heard this from Tony Robbins. And I went on to learn about it more in, like, when people you'll see the gratitude challenge out there, that people are doing a 30-day challenge. What I think that we need more than anything else is 5 minutes at the beginning of the day to set our day. And so I'm going to make some suggestions for you here right now about a structural framework that you put about your day. The home play assignment is going to be to create your own structural framework that will allow your emotional state to be transient rather than you getting caught up in them. What that does is it allows you to get to the root cause of the negative patterns that you run before you run them. Right? So, one of the things I teach is strategies for behavioral change, how to create behavioral change by working with a strategy. And one of the things that we say is that you want to intervene at the point before the strategy goes haywire. Right? Most people are looking to change their problems, but not getting to the root cause of the problems. So if you put in place these daily practices, half of the problems that you have in the first place won't ever come up. And so one of these daily practices is every morning, realize that the first 5 minutes of your day sets the tone for the rest of the day. So think about what you're doing currently. Are you rolling out of bed, jumping right on Facebook, jumping right on social media, looking at your phone first thing? Are you looking at problems? Are you jumping right into work? Or are you taking the time to set the tone by writing? I like questions. You could write the gratitude list. Here's what I'm most grateful for. If you did a gratitude list every morning and you wrote the 10 things that you're most grateful for, the key to that and the key to questions. What am I, questions could be, what am I most excited about? What am I most inspired by? What do I feel happiest about in my life? What am I most enthusiastic about in my life? Those types of questions, and sitting there and really asking yourself the question and really bathing in the feeling. So it's not going down the negative path and saying, oh, nothing, right? If you're doing a gratitude list, you could just stay on gratitude if you wanted and write down the 10 things you're most grateful for. But the key is to bathe in the feeling, to anchor yourself in that feeling first thing in the morning, because that will, I promise you, set the tone for the rest of your day. It's probably the most important thing you can do out of everything we're looking at here. The next thing is meditation. And you may have a meditation practice already or not. Meditation is one of those things that most people will only do when they're about ready to jump off the cliff, rather than doing as a practice. And I'll admit that I've been doing transcendental meditation since the time I was 9. However, I've practiced off and on. Though in the times where I've felt most challenged in my life, where I've been stretched to my limits, where I've been stretched to my extremes. That's all right, Michael. We'll see you soon, Buck. Yeah. Look forward to talking to you soon, Michael. I had to jump off. Where we've been stretched to our extremes. In those times, that's where I had to meditate for 2 hours, right? And just sit in stillness or silentness, right? Silentness. I don't know if that's a word. But so there's different types of meditation. There's transcendental meditation where you use a mantra to remind yourself to go into that space of no thought, to calm the thoughts, right? And the metaphor that was used by a therapist that I did therapy with at one point, I was receiving therapy. They say that a man cannot long be his own therapist, right? So I went in and he was a mindfulness therapist, but his whole thing was, he said, if you imagine if you had a jar full of water and it had sand in it, and if you shook it up, you'd look through the jar and what would you see? And I said, well, you'd see cloudiness. And he said, yes, but if you let it sit still and you let the sand fall to the bottom, what do you see then? And I said, clarity. He said, that's how you are right now. He said, when you find the clarity, it's easy to notice the cause and effect relationships in our life. And if you have a certain cause, if you're doing a certain thing that is producing an effect that you don't like, if you don't like the results you're getting, then you can change what you're doing, but you can't see it clearly until there's stillness. So one of the greatest things that you can do, I work with people for things like they'll come to a seminar and we'll do a smoking cessation. I rarely do that anymore because my rates are too expensive for people to just see me to stop smoking, although it could save their life. But my students do it. I can always refer people out as well. So if I'm working with something like smoking cessation, if you got somebody to be mindful and to meditate twice a day, they might not have the need to reach out for, in the first place, that cigarette for the escape or for the relaxation or for the pattern interrupt that they're looking in their life because of their inability to manage their internal world. So meditation is what gives us a contextual framework that makes our entire life better. I love mindfulness meditations where you are focused just on your breath and being present in the moment. There's a lot of different practices that are out there. We can talk about them in more depth in other places, but to have a regular practice is key. Meditation 2 times a day for 20 minutes. You can just, if you close your eyes for a moment and you see that there's lighter patches of light and dark, a very simple meditation for you to do 2 times a day is to simply focus on the light within, the lighter patches within as you close your eyes. And any thoughts that come into your mind, you let them go like clouds on a breezy afternoon, and you meditate on the light within. That's a very easy meditation. The idea is to silence your mind. And all of these are for the practice of being fully present in the moment. There's another one that you can do, becoming the observer of thought. We'll do a special session just on these different types of meditations so that we can know more about that. But I want to cover just a couple of rest of practices and wrap it up and give you a home play assignment. Another practice that you can do is obviously exercise. If you're not exercising right now, I can tell you that if you feel depressed, if you feel like you're not happy, or you can't manage your emotional states, or you're lashing out at people, or you have situations happening in your life where things are blowing up, I can almost guarantee you that your daily practices aren't in place that make the big things seem small, right? Because your life is about something more than the little things that bring most people down. So exercise, for me, yoga, as I get older, yoga is a wonderful exercise to do. But if you love, the martial arts has always been a love of mine. But if you love to dance, dance and get it into the schedule regularly. Daily exercise will break up the emotional state, because even if you're really angry, the moment your body starts moving and you change your physiology, you're flooding it with endorphins, you're feeling better, and that can change your states immediately. And what was once so big becomes small in retrospect. These are all things that I'm suggesting you do on a daily basis. On a daily basis, right? Breathing is such a funny one, because most people will go, well, I breathe myself. It's an unconscious thing. But there are breath practices that you can also do to calm your breathing or to calm your emotional states. One very simple practice, if you find that you're carrying a lot of stress and anxiety, is to time your breath, to inhale through the nose at a count of 4. Then hold your breath for a count of 4. Then exhale to a count of 4. Then hold the breath after the exhalation for a count of 4. So that's a 4-part breathing exercise done with a count of 4 on each one. Inhale to the count of 4, hold for the count of 4, exhale for the count of 4, hold the exhalation for the count of 4, and then start again. Breathing practices like that. Or there's other breathing practices you can do with your meditation that we'll get into deeper at deeper levels as well, that help to oxygenate the body and flood it. If you carry stress and tension and anxiety in your body, when you make those breathing practices a regular part of, and why not do it with your meditation? Lead into your meditation with breathing. Right? That way you get it right there together. When you do that, then you're going to alleviate a lot of the stress and tension that was once in your body. When people have chronic pain, oftentimes chronic pain is purely a result of a lack of exercise. Chronic lower back pain, purely a result oftentimes of a lack of exercise and looseness or flabbiness around the abdominal muscles, or holding on to tension in the buttocks, or holding on to tension and stress in other places. Stress those muscles in the lower back, and the chronic pain comes not because there's something physically wrong in many cases. You always want to check with your doctor. However, just putting in place a regular exercise and meditation practice can make it disappear. It's mind-blowing how quickly these things can disappear. When I was running my internship, I ran an internship called Rock House out in Bali for a couple of years, where people would come and live with me. What I said was that I let the pendulum swing to the other side. I'd been on the road so much, and my business was the most important thing. But I had asked Richard Branson once, the founder of the Virgin Companies, how do you handle all the stress of your business? And he said, I have no stress. And I didn't believe it, right? I couldn't, because I had so much stress. And he said something very telling. He said, there's nothing that could happen to me in business that's worth worrying about. I'll say that again. There's nothing that could happen to me in business that's worth worrying about. Now, once again, I couldn't understand that at all. I couldn't even hear it, right? But it says something about his values. It says something about the context that surrounds how he plays the game of life. We'll talk about that in other places. But right now, you see how important contextual practices can be. We would run, after we would at Rock House, every morning, we'd get up, we'd do yoga, the whole team. I had 22 people there. We'd do yoga together. Then we'd meditate. And some of them fought it tooth and nail. They didn't want to do it. I warned them before they came that was the practice, and that's what they were signing up for as part of the internship, was that I was putting them first. And they fought it, even though it was for their own good. But when they left, you know what? I got letters back to me saying, I can't believe it. I kept up my yoga practice after I left, and it's made my life infinitely better. I'm thinner. I've got more energy. I'm handling things better. Thank you, thank you, thank you, because it became a practice. And practice is what we want to do. So every morning before our meeting, we do law of attraction principles, where we put goals in our future. We focus on the things that we want. We also had a regular practice of learning and education and practicing that. I do that today. Whenever I want to learn something and I'm driving my car, I'll go on iTunes, or not on iTunes, I'll go on YouTube and just look up the concept. How do you begin to work with this database management program? How do you launch a podcast? And I'll just stick my telephone on a suction cup on the window, and I'll listen to the podcast while the video plays there, right? Or I'll listen to the YouTube video. It's an instructional video, so I'm taking advantage of that time. All practices. You know, another question that comes up sometimes is, do we do meditation? Do we do hypnosis? Do we do prayer? I think all three are great practices to weave into your daily routine. I do think you should have something in the morning and then in the evening after you've finished all of your work to clear the air with meditation or something, to begin anew so that you can be fully present, you know, with your family or with your kids, so that you don't drag stuff from the day into that place. Meditation can help to clear that up, right? Prayer can be amazing. I've begun to integrate that in my life. My favorite prayers are the Serenity Prayer, which a lot of people know. And another prayer that I love is the St. Francis Prayer. And it's engaging a higher power to help you guide you through your day and to help you to think in different ways. And whatever your spiritual beliefs are, in my experience, prayer can be very, very powerful. And then we also want that end of the day wrap up, like I said. At the end of every day, if you end it, you can end it with meditation again. You know, and when I learned TM, they said 2 times a day, 20 minutes a day, once in the morning, once in the afternoon. Those are good numbers. If you want to alternate that out with hypnosis, if you've learned that, I did teach hypnosis in our trainings. Maybe you know that already. Maybe you've trained with us. If not, you can, right? But at the end of the day, you do a wrap up for the day. And another good thing to do is to end the day with more questions and ask yourself, how did I contribute to the world today? And what makes me proud about that? Ask yourself questions like, where did I really show up today in my life? That I can be really happy about. What did I contribute to somebody? Did I do some act of random kindness today? This way, you're holding yourself accountable for doing things that make you happier, that bring joy into your life. Now, I just went out with the dogs in the front yard and threw a ball for them for 15 minutes, and it changed the tone of my day. It changed the way I felt. You know, what are the things that you're going to make a regular practice in your day? And we want to spice it up, and we don't want to throw too much on at once. We want to make them doable. I'd be happier to hear that you had a 5-minute meditation practice in the morning and a 5-minute in the afternoon, the evening when you finished, and that you did some questions at morning, at night, and you did one form of exercise, something for the day. I'd be happy with that, and you'd be thrilled with that. But if it's a 20-minute practice, make it a 20-minute practice. I want you to do something that you can keep going. And that leads us to your home play. So your home play for this session, and we'll be meeting again next week. But this is if you're in the full coaching program. So if you've signed up for the coaching program, you can either pay in full or you can do month by month. We make it really, really easy. All you have to do is reach out to us at contact@legendarylivingacademy.com. Once again, contact@legendarylivingacademy.com. Let us know you want to do the life coaching program. We do it monthly, and it's an automatic debit. And when you want to stop, you can stop. It's no problem. But don't stop. Keep going. You pay in full for the year, you get 3 months off free. Right? But I want to give you home play. And whether you're here with us next week or not, do the home play because it's critical. And I hope you're here with us next week. But you need to enroll to do that. The home play is to design your own practice to surround your day. I'll tell you what mine is right now. I wake up every day and I do morning questions, gratitude questions. I do yoga directly following that, and then meditation. I'm going to be honest with you. This morning, I missed my meditation. So I get to go in and do my meditation and make up for it afterwards. And then I meditate at the end of the day. Those are the practice. I want to get those together and tight, because I know that if I have a habit that if I throw too much at myself at once, I'll end up not doing anything. And I don't want to binge and purge. I want to keep the practice going. The next layer for me is to get my jiu-jitsu going again, as I haven't been at jiu-jitsu recently. So that's the commitment that I'm making. I'd like you to create a practice for yourself, draft it up, make sure you bring it back with you to our coaching session next week when you come, and make if you're already doing a lot of things, then up the ante. Take it up another level. With that, I'm gonna log out here. It may have just logged this out for us. If you can still hear me, I want you to write in. If you can hear me and you're able to type in the Q&A bar, write one thing that you're really excited about right now. Just write one thing in the Q&A bar that you're really excited about right now. If you can still hear me and you're still on there, write one thing that you're really excited about. I'm thinking everybody's on the on the phone lines here. So I'm going to say good night for now, or good afternoon for now, or good morning wherever you are. And I hope that you join us. Once again, contact at legendarylivingacademy.com. Join us for the whole program if you're not on it yet. And I'm thrilled that we had the opportunity to take your life in a brand new direction. Thanks for being here. And remember, love deeply, shine brightly, make every day an extraordinary adventure. We'll see you soon. Ciao, guys.